For Wednesday, the 27th day of June, 1990. I'm David Carter, Speaker of the Legislature and member for Calgary-Egmont. After question period today, the House will be dealing with third reading of Bill 37, Alberta Government Telephones Reorganization Act. At the moment, there is only one bill at third reading. At the moment, we have 31 bills awaiting royal assent. There are 6 bills in Committee of the Whole, and one bill at second reading stage, the Loan and Trust Corporations Act. Last night, the House sat from 8 o'clock through until 1:45 in the morning. The night before, the House sat until 2 to 3 in the morning. The members are working these long hours in the hope of being able to get out on this Friday, and then the House would stand adjourned until probably November. Let us pray. O Lord, we give thanks for the bounty of our province, our land, our resources, and our people. We pledge ourselves to act as good stewards on behalf of all Albertans. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
To the member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to present a petition signed by over 150 staff workers at private nursing homes in Calgary, calling for the nursing homes to become publicly operated by government and to improve the quality of care in those private nursing homes.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The Solicitor General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to give oral notice of motion under the provisions of Standing Order 40 for the Legislature to examine the following motion. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta convey its deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Constable Eziel Ferron of the Edmonton Police Service, who was needlessly and tragically killed while performing his duties to the people of this city, and urge all Albertans to reflect on the onerous responsibility that our police officers take on each and every day to help make our communities a safer place in which to live, and to say a prayer for Constable Ferron, his family, friends, and all police officers throughout our province.
Thank you.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
The Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to table a copy of a survey on the status of long-term health care in Alberta, which has recently been released by the Long-Term Health Care Employees Committee of the Alberta Division of the Canadian Union of Public Employees.
Thank you. The Minister of Health.
I would like to table with the Assembly the financial statement of the University Hospitals Board for the year ended March 31, 1990, response to question number 236, and the annual reports of the inspection of animals under the Universities Act for the fiscal years ended March 31, 89 and March 31, 90, Copies will be provided to all members.
The chair would like to point out that the petition was defective in as much as it is a photocopy, so the petition becomes a filing. Thank you.
Introduction of special guests.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you today and through you to members of the Assembly some visitors to our province from the country of Brazil. Leading a group of 25 cattle buyers visiting Alberta ranchers, we have in the members gallery the president of the Semitole Association of Brazil, Agostinho Fraga, and I'd ask that he stand. Accompanying him is the Vice President of the Semitole Association of Brazil, Murilo Fraga, and accompanying, in addition, Alan Fraga, the Technical Director of the Semitole Association. They're also being accompanied by Silvio de Castro, who is the President of Agri Export, a company located in Brazil, and being toured around the province by Gary Smith, the President of Canadian Livestock International, home-based out of Windborne, Alberta. The driver from the Alberta Agricultural Marketing Division, Daryl Newman. I'd ask that they stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Member for Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche, followed by the Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly, Mr. Harold Burden, General Manager, and Mr. Bill Adsett, General Manager of Finance from the Indigenous Games Office, and also Charles Wood. The North American Indigenous Games will be held here in Edmonton from June 30th to July 8th of this year. Mr. Speaker, the North American Indigenous Games will play host to over 3,000 Indian, Inuit, and Métis athletes, 1,000 cultural performers from 40 diverse cultural groups, and 1,000 First Nations Chiefs Conference delegates who will be attending on an affiliated conference here, making Edmonton the site of the largest Chiefs Conference in the history of Canada. Mr. Speaker, the Games are dedicated to the growth of our people and understanding among mankind. These athletes, artists, performers, and delegates representing dozens of bands and tribes across Canada and the United States. They are coming from as far away as Alaska and the Arctic in the north to the Mexican border in the south, and from the east coast to the west coast. Mr. Speaker, the North American Indigenous Games continues Alberta's tradition of hosting world-class international sporting events such as the Commonwealth Games, the World University Games, and the Olympic Winter Games. This is both an honor and a privilege for all Albertans, and I would encourage all the members of the House to take advantage of this opportunity and support and take part in some of these events. I would like to ask Mr. Burden and Mr. Adsett and Mr. Woods to stand at this time and receive the usual warm welcome of this Assembly.
Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Speaker, I would like to introduce some important guests to the legislature today. First, from the Credit Union Central of the province of Alberta, Tom Matkin, Chairman of the Board, along with Jim Skopik, Chief Executive Officer, Leslie Naus, Marketing Representative. From the Canadian Western Bank, Larry Pollock, President and Chief Operating Officer. From Northwest Trust, Donald Fornell, President and as well Chief Operating Officer here today, and along with them are three people from the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Mary Cameron and Stephen Kent and Joan McCracken. I'd ask them to stand and be recognized.
Member of Lesser Slave Lake.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. It is my honor to rise with my colleague from the member from Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche to introduce to you and the members of the Assembly individuals associated with the Indigenous Games. Ray Paskaman, who is in the Members Gallery, is the Assistant Manager of Culture for the Games. He has been instrumental in arranging for over 1,000 performers from 32 different cultural groups across North America to attend the Games. The performances, which will be held June 30th between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. at 107th Avenue and 109th Street, will include Northern Plains dancers, throat singers, mass dancers, jiggers, and square dancers. Also with us today is Sabrina Wood. As the head of the North American Indigenous Games Youth Council, Sabrina has helped bring over 3,000 Native youths from dozens of bands across Canada and the United States to participate in the athletic events which will showcase Native confidence and Native ability. I would ask the members of this House to give Mr. Paskam and Miss Wood the traditional warm welcome of this House, and I'd like them please to stand.
Ministerial statements.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm very excited to announce the sale of Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation $620 million of single-family mortgage holdings in their portfolio. As a result of changes in the housing market over the years, it is now a major benefit to Albertans to have the private sector administer these loans rather than a provincial crown corporation. Over the years, the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation has acquired substantial land, housing, and loan portfolios. With the support of the Premier, I initiated a major review of the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation's mandate and programs in November of 1989. The goals of the review were as follows: to clarify the role of government and housing, to address AMHC's involvement in land, housing, and lending, to improve fiscal responsibility, and to improve communication and relations with key stakeholders. Through the President, Mary Cameron, and Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs, Archie Grover, and with the cooperation of industry, AMHC's Board of Directors, non-profit management agencies, and employees, we have worked together to bring about a better understanding of what our role is in housing and should be. Mr. Speaker, we as government have established the direction that AMHC will focus on providing affordable housing for people with special needs, the disabled, seniors, and low-income households. As part of the changing focus of AMHC, the corporation will divest itself of programs and activities that can be more appropriately handled by the private sector. The following results have been achieved since the beginning of the review. 68 municipalities involved in land agreements with AMHC have received a revised offer that is more manageable for them. 25 municipalities have accepted that offer. Another 24 have indicated very positive interest. A total of 658 foreclosed properties have been sold since November the 1st, 1989. And now today, Mr. Speaker, the government is announcing this $620 million sale of the mortgage portfolio, which will occur in two phases. 3 Alberta financial institutions, Canadian Western Bank, the credit unions, and Northwest Trust, will buy $237 million in loans. It was our belief, Mr. Speaker, that Alberta financial institutions should have the first opportunity to obtain part or all of this portfolio. The remainder of the portfolio, some $383 million in mortgage loans, will be made available to other private sector institutions through a bid process in July and ending in August of 1990. All of the proceeds generated through the sale will be reinvested in the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. People who have mortgages with the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation will not be affected. They will have their mortgage transferred to a lender which can offer as many or more benefits, particularly in the rural areas where the credit unions can offer a stronger presence because of their extensive branch network. The sale will affect some AMHC employees now administering the single-family mortgage portfolio. We have a commitment to do everything in our power to help them find alternate employment opportunities. AMHC employees have been actively involved in this open process of review and change. Today's announcement, Mr. Speaker, of the $620 million sale of the portfolio is only part of the continuing process to build a more effective, revitalized housing organization. My commitment to this legislature is to complete this process by the end of the year 1990, which is the current calendar year, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in replying to the ministerial announcement, there's a lot of very unanswered questions, Mr. Speaker. I notice that the minister has conveniently left out some very important details. Mr. Speaker, I guess the first question, he's talking about $620 million. I expect it's a fire sale, Mr. Speaker, and I'd really like to know from the government how much money the taxpayers have lost in terms of the bungling that's gone on in the past, Mr. Speaker. How much money are the taxpayers paying for this? Well, Mr. Speaker, I assure you that would have been a lot more than $620 million that we put into it, Mr. Speaker, and they can't deny that. Mr. Speaker, the other aspect of it, though, there's some other questions. Some of these people that are going to be involved in being sold off to the private sector are obviously renters, Mr. Speaker, and as minister is well aware, especially in the two major cities, we still have a very low vacancy rate. I wonder what protection is and what process is going to be for those people that are involved in that, Mr. Speaker. I also notice that there's at least a mediating effect, and it's going to be very difficult for people with medium incomes and low incomes to have affordable housing in the future, Mr. Speaker. And the other point I would make is that it looks to me like roughly $383 million eventually could go outside the province, Mr. Speaker. That's certainly not going to help our economy. I'm not saying it will all go out, but certainly that possibility is there. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, it says that we have a commitment to do everything in our power to help HC employees, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. I wish you'd be a little more specific. How many employees are we talking about, Mr. Speaker? And what is that alternatives available to these employees, Mr. Speaker, instead of the vague parts of this, Mr. Speaker? And so, Mr. Speaker, we certainly, the ministerial statement raises certainly more questions than we have answers, and we will look forward to pursuing that in the days ahead, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, to the Treasurer, Mr. Speaker. 3 months have gone by since the Treasurer made his bold prediction that his government would reduce the deficit that they've created this year by $1 billion, Mr. Speaker. I think at the time the pressure was really on the Treasurer to make a big splash to try and cover up the financial mess that this government has created. But I may say so, Mr. Speaker, his rose-colored glasses are becoming more scratched as each day goes by, Mr. Speaker. The economic indicators are just not good, Mr. Speaker. Today, oil is trading at $12.30 at $16.75. Analysts tell us that may be leveling off going into the fall around that price, Mr. Speaker. No money from the stabilization grants, Mr. Speaker. GST coming forward. And then, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the Treasurer looked at Michael Wilson, his statement yesterday that he is toying with midterm corrections. Mr. Speaker, because interest rates are higher than he expected. At least Wilson is recognizing the reality, Mr. Speaker, even if he's not a very good predictor. My question to the Treasurer, can the Treasurer now tell us whether he, like Michael Wilson, is also looking at midterm corrections?
Just say.
Speaker, I think I dealt pretty extensively with this very issue not more than 2 or 3 days back. I know that the opposition is tiring. I understand that the researchers are running out of fresh ideas like their mentors. And so you expect this kind of recitation of the same sort of issues. And I welcome an opportunity to speak to Albertans on this very important point, Mr. Speaker, and to spell out for them the confidence we have in this strength of our economic profile in Alberta, and to confirm our view that the province of Alberta will probably be the strongest province in terms of economic growth through the next 12 months. The strengths here in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, are dependent upon a couple of things. One is that the people of Alberta want us to reduce the deficit, and that's why this government brought down a deficit with a $1 billion deficit reduction, Mr. Speaker, $1 billion. And we're on course to balance that budget by 91-92. Now, we know the opposition across the way would like to see the worst-case scenarios. They'd like to see unemployment rampant in this province. They'd like to see the investor confidence dropping to low levels. And you can be assured, Mr. Speaker, they'd like to be spend. That's the manifesto that these people across the way work under, Mr. Speaker. Now, since they have specifically...
Thank you. Supplementary Leader of the Thank you, Honourable Ministers. Supplementary Leader of the Opposition.
Oh, well acted there, dear.
Mr. Speaker, all the huffing and puffing in the world isn't going to change the fact that he's made bad predictions. We're talking not about the economy, we're talking about the revenues coming into this province.
Right.
And I would point out, just using the price of oil, $16.75 a day, it's always been far below what the minister predicted, even if it started today. To change tomorrow, it'd have to be $22 a barrel for the rest of the time, Mr. Speaker. And I want to come back to this treasure. Instead of huffing and puffing and misleading the people of Alberta, why doesn't he admit that there is problems now with his predictions and like Wilson, say that we're going to take a look at adjusting our predictions? So instead of being cruel to the people of Alberta and misleading them, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
I hope the member from Norwood's got good medical advice, because his blood pressure is soaring through the roof here, Mr. Speaker. Trying to put some emphasis in his otherwise nonsensical comments. The simple fact that he's trying to strain himself to get the point across is understandable. Let's just recount what happened to the price of oil, Mr. Speaker, since in fact he wants to talk about oil. The first 3 months of 1990, the price of oil in Alberta was about $21.30 or 40 cents, someplace in there. First 3 months of 1990. The first 6 months of 1990, running a bit of an assumption on the $16.75 or $17 level through to the end of the month, and I'm sure the member from Norwood would give me 1 or 2 days flexibility on that average calculation. The price of oil is going to be very close to $19, Mr. Speaker. $19. Now, last year at this time, the member from Norwood was up on his feet forecasting $10 oil. $10 oil. And I've repeatedly said to him, if he doesn't like our $21 forecast, then give us his own. And I bet you a nickel he won't, because he knows darn well he hasn't got any intelligence about what the price of oil is going to do. Now, what's happening in this province is the following. The price of oil has gone to about $16.75. Most analysts will confirm that's the low point. We're in that summer doldrums, Mr. Speaker. The price of oil is always down in this period, Mr. Speaker, but it'll come back up. It'll come right back up as soon as the cold weather starts to hit. Demand for hydrocarbons start to work through the system. The demand in other parts of the world start to take hold. Remembering full well, Mr. Speaker, that Europe, Japan in particular, and North America certainly have strong economic growth taking place, which has a high oil consumption component. That demand is expanding rapidly there, Mr. Speaker, and you can be darn sure that the price of oil is going to track back up. Remember, already through the first 6 months of 1990, the average price of oil is running around the $19 level. The first 3 months, Mr. Speaker, of 1990, the price of oil on average was over the $21 estimate. Now, I ask you, Mr. Speaker, if the $21 average price to March 31st, 1991 isn't reasonable, let the people of Alberta judge. They'll probably come to the same conclusion the government has. It's a fair estimate. It's a long ways to go yet, Mr. Speaker, and there's no reason at all to worry about the economic strength of this province, contrary to the views held by the member of Norwood.
I have never seen a treasurer that gets up and talks about the first 3 months of last year's budget to make predictions for this year's budget, Mr. Speaker. Talk about intelligence, Mr. Speaker. Talk about intelligence. He expects the people of Alberta to believe that gabblegook, Mr. Speaker. Now, the treasurer, this intelligent treasurer, this great marketplace treasurer, can he tell the people of Alberta how it is that a quarter of the way through in this particular budget, the price of oil has now been $3 to $4 less than he predicted. Interest rates are higher than he predicted. He's got no stability grant money coming from the federal government. How it is that he's making a prediction that he's on track. The most, let me put it this way, even the backbenchers understand that that's not the truth, Mr. Speaker.
Let me make 3 points, Mr. Speaker. We don't have backbenchers in our government. Unlike the NDP, you never can tell who's answering, providing questions over there. I mean, they have more backbenchers than I can believe. And in fact, they don't even let the backbenchers who are responsible for certain issues raise questions. You notice that, Mr. Speaker? They take it away from them. Talk about a poor attitude towards their caucus. That's not the view held in this government, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, we are on course, Mr. Speaker. Now, the member knows, he says, why is it that we use a $21 forecast? Well, of course, the budget was put together in February or March of 1990 when the price of oil was trading around the $21 level. And for the first 6 months of 1990, the average is well up around $19 anyways, Mr. Speaker. Our view is that the price of oil will come right back up, as we've indicated. As well, Mr. Speaker, the interest rates with respect to Canada is a high problem for us. It's a problem which is going to cost the province of Alberta some dollars, I agree. I agree it will in some of our programs. However, the high interest rates on the Heritage Savings Trust Fund puts more bucks into the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, Mr. Speaker, which is transferred across the General Revenue Fund. About $1.25 billion coming from the Heritage Savings Trust Fund and the General Revenue Fund, Mr. Speaker. We expect that to hold and go up. And so, Mr. Speaker, on balance, high interest rates work to the favor of the people of Alberta by continuing to give the highest level of services, the lowest level of taxation, and the strongest economic growth of any province in Canada. That's performance, and that's what those folks across the way don't like very well.
Leader of the Opposition, second main question.
I understand where new provincial income is going to come. We're going to sell hot air, Mr. Speaker, in this province. Sell hot air. I'd like to designate my second question, member from Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in a news conference, the Alberta Division of the Canadian Union of Public Employees made public an astounding results of a survey of its long-term care support workers in nursing homes and auxiliary hospitals throughout the 24 throughout the province. A survey, Mr. Speaker, from the frontline hands-on providers, which clearly reveals that our elderly, the pioneers of this province, are receiving frighteningly inadequate care in these institutions. Now, 3 weeks ago, the representatives of these nursing staff sent a copy of the report and its findings to the Minister of Health and have been repeatedly asking her for a meeting to discuss its recommendations. I'd like to ask the Minister of Health today, despite a quickly delivered note sent to them late yesterday afternoon not promising a meeting, I want to know why this minister has refused to meet them and when she is instead going to turn around and sit down and meet with these people to determine what they can do to improve quality of care for seniors in our province.
Mr. Speaker, contrary to what the Edmonton Centre member has said, this is not the nursing workers, this is support workers that are members of the Canadian Union of Public Employees who were surveyed, and I very much appreciated CUPE sending me a copy of their report. Several of the issues that have been raised are best dealt with through the collective bargaining process, which CUPE is currently involved in with the Alberta Hospitals Association, so it would be inappropriate for me to comment on those issues with respect to the bargaining process. However, I do believe that clearly the issues they've raised and the issues regarding quality of care have to be taken very seriously. And as I indicated in the letter back to the national representative of CUPE, I have asked my department to review the report very carefully in the context of long-term care in Alberta, along with lodges to which the survey applied.
So no meeting, no action, just another review, Mr. Speaker. While the quality of care for seniors in our nursing homes and lodges continues to deteriorate, is in serious jeopardy. Now we have first-hand evidence that there is abuse, there's chronic depression, there's widespread alcohol and drug abuse. And one nursing home resident, Mr. Speaker, even told an aide that the only way I can get attention in here is by being violent or by getting sick. That's the only way this resident can get attention because of the staff shortage. Given the seriousness of the charges that 86% of the respondents have seen incidents of violence or assault, how can the minister continue to allow these inhuman conditions to go on for so long?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the CUPE report has fully acknowledged, the survey is not scientific, not in its design nor in its conclusion. So I believe the report has to be considered rather in the context of long-term care in the province as a whole. The results of the survey, interestingly, are from some of the support workers in 24 long-term care facilities and senior lodges across the province. And this is with, if we look at the numbers of long-term care facilities which exist, which is 165, and 139 seniors lodges. It is a small portion represented. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, I take the information very seriously with respect to the quality of care, and I will be looking at it very carefully as I indicated.
Final.
These good people have provided evidence which I believe is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's going on in nursing homes in the province. What the minister only has is the Health Facilities Review Committee with a few members that go around and check all the healthcare facilities once every 16 or 18 months, drops in, has tea, find out how things are going, and then offer very few suggestions and recommendations. When is the minister herself? Please, how can I beg any more that she can please take action herself for the benefit of seniors in these nursing homes and stop shoving these human problems off onto yet another one of her many inadequate committees?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Health Facilities Review Committee is anything but inadequate and does a great deal more than go and have tea in these facilities. Last year, they visited 72 lodges in our province and 52 long-term care facilities, and they are a very vital part of this minister's ability to review health facilities in our province, both with respect to a complaint that's been raised and on their own volition, which I very much encourage. I believe that the information that's been provided to me by the QP people has been very helpful from a quality care point of view, but it's only but one way that I receive information. The honourable member forgets that Albertans living in long-term care, as well as their families, are in constant contact with this minister through correspondence and meetings that I have with them, and I want to assure Albertans that those in long-term care, as well as those in seniors lodges in our province, that our care system is safe, and it is one that other provinces look to for leadership. And if any Albertan has a complaint about a specific facility, about the care that's being provided in our long-term care facilities, or any member of a family or any member of the public, I would ask them to contact me directly. I'm hoping that the workers that have been surveyed in the 24 out of the some 300 facilities that are the subject of this report will make their concerns about the care of the people in those facilities well known to the management.
Member for Westlock Sturgeon on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Thank you very much, Mr. Premier. This one to my old friend, the Deputy Premier, if I can keep the wild game quiet here on the right here. Mr. Speaker, with regard to Senate reform and the Constitution, I need a bit of a background. Back in August of '86, the then leader of the Reform and the Liberal parties tried to put the Premier on a hot seat, and they warned that Senate reform should be up there with getting on Beach Lake and Edmonton Accord agendas, up there with bringing Quebec into the Constitution. Then about a year later, March 19th, Mr. Speaker, in '87, a month before the Beach Lake, I begged the Premier to put Senate reform on the agenda in Quebec. April '87, yes, there is the, if I can find my glasses. In April '87, I asked the Premier, is he prepared, April 7th, is he prepared to sit down in discussions with the elected Senate, is he prepared to sit down and negotiate with Quebec in return for some of the exclusive rights that they have asked for language and culture in a Senate? Again, just a little later, they also, in '88, there's a lot of yelling going on here. Do you agree that entering in the Edmonton Declaration, which put Quebec first in the Senate reform, and that afterthought was a mistake? Of course, he took the bait in '88, and eventually, or I should say, the suggestion in '87, the bait in '88, and they went ahead with Senate reform election in '89. Now, what I'd like to ask the Deputy Premier, kind of noisy, you know, you
forget the question?
You shake the cage.
honourable member may be engaged in the initial stages of his next election to try for an election at the Senate or whatever, or make a plea to be appointed, but please let's have the question.
Thank you, Mr. Premier, or Mr. Speaker. I was just a little bothered because when you touch one of them over there, the whole bloody cage comes after you. Now, to the Deputy Premier, will Alberta now turn the heat up and call for the Western Premiers together to see that they will all agree to elect the next Senate nominee?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I just want to make it clear that when the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon said that when you touch one of them over there, the whole cage comes at you, he was referring to the official opposition and not the government, isn't it? Well, Mr. Speaker, talk about revisionism of history. If I had the time, Mr. Speaker, which I'm sure you will not allow me to take it, I could go back to 1981, to a period when we were in intense negotiations with regard to future constitutional change in this country, and then to 1982 when the Constitution was patriated without reforming the Senate, without any effort being made to reform the Senate on the part of the then Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. It left us in the position here where we then embarked upon an intensive dialogue with Albertans and established a select committee of this Legislative Assembly to go across this province and this country under the chairmanship of the Honourable Dennis Anderson, then member for Calgary-Curry, and other members of this Assembly, and came forward after intensive debate and discussion and public hearings and public hearings and public hearings with the people of Alberta to recommend to this Assembly in 1985 a Triple E Senate. Now, Mr. Speaker, that's where the concept arose, and it was brought to this Assembly and voted upon and accepted unanimously by the members of this House. And then after 1986, when the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon came into the Assembly, he asked that that be reaffirmed, and it was. And unanimously once again. Brilliant. And that's when he got into the Act, and we appreciated his support. Post-revisionist. Now, to go on from there, of course, it was put on the agenda of the First Ministers as a result of the Edmonton Declaration as the #1 constitutional priority after bringing the family of Canada together again. Now, I could go on to recite all the steps that were taken subsequently, but it's interesting to note this, Mr. Speaker, that one thing the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon failed to note is that when we brought the Senatorial Selection Act into this Legislative Assembly, he and his party voted against it.
Shame. 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 Oh. Oh, terrible.
Now, if I could then respond to the question. The Western Premiers endorsed the concept of a Triple E Senate at the Parksville meeting in British Columbia, and that was the first time that our Premier had the support of all 4 Western Premiers in support of a Triple E Senate. That commitment is there, and it is our intention to press on further for Senate reform by whatever vehicle, by whatever means we have.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just trying to help him out as I have for the last couple of years and giving him some ideas. Instead, he takes off down to pasture with his tail over the back and jumps the fence. But really, all I'm interested in is not whether or not who voted for what section of the bill. I'm saying that you can now turn the heat up underneath the Prime Minister by getting the Western provinces together and putting an elected Senate back together, as long as it's all common. The second thing then I would like to get across, the second question is, would the Deputy Premier and the government not only meet with the Western Premiers, but hold the electing for the Senate before the vacancies take care, so that slippery character down there cannot point before you've elected one?
Exactly.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I see the leader of the opposition is laughing, and I'm going to control mine, if at all possible. If the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon had wanted to help the government out in our quest for Senate reform, I remind him he could have voted in favor of the Senatorial Selection Act, but he did not, and I repeat that once again.
Repeat it.
Now, I've never heard of anything as so absurd as holding an election for a vacancy that doesn't exist. And no, Mr. Speaker, I will not recommend that to my Premier or to our caucus. If I did, I would be laughed at. I think that's fair to say.
Mr. Speaker, I've had two chances at the bat, put him right over the home plate, and each time he's turned around and bowed to the crowd rather than taking a cut at the ball. What I'd like him to do, Mr. well, but I would inform the Speaker I'm only putting one ball over the plate at the same time. It's not like the Minister of Environment. Back again, not whether I voted for the bill in the second, we voted for the bill in second reading. We drafted the bill for you. What more did you want us to do? Run the election? But the third question then, would you even go further? Not only call the premiers, Western premiers together, not only draft an act that you can all agree on to put the heat on the Prime Minister, not only hold the elections before the vacancies occur, but maybe ask the Maritimes to join you. What would it be like if we could get 8 of the 10 provinces all electing their senators and see what the Prime Minister would do then?
Why don't you do that?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd remind the honourable member that he has covered a lot of territory, but he seems to have forgotten this, that as a result of the actions of our Premier and as a result of the actions of the task force, which I chaired as it went across the country on Senate reform, we have the support of 8 of the 10 provinces to Senate reform. And the companion accord, which was arrived at in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago, and which was swept away with the Meech Lake, provided a vehicle by which we would have had a meaningful opportunity for real Senate reform with the creation of a commission which would have reported to a First Minister's Conference on the economy, or on the Constitution, to be held at the end of this year. Enormous progress was made in Ottawa. Unfortunately, we're not able to carry forward with it at this time. But I repeat this, it remains the firm commitment and intention of this government to press for Senate reform with the Triple E model. And do you know why it is so? Because the people of Alberta have told us that's what they want, and this legislature unanimously have told us that that's what they want, and we will press ahead for it. But I want to add this caution, and I made this point during the course of the Senatorial Selection Act. If we had an elected Senate, if all 104 members of the current Senate were elected today, we would never be able to get a Triple E Senate. Under any circumstances whatsoever would we be able to sweep away 104 elected senators with the current composition of the Canadian Senate. So what the Honourable Acting Leader of the Liberal Party, and I want to congratulate him, he's in rare form today in that capacity, and quite frankly, I enjoyed it a great deal more than the other chap, because he has a sense of humor. But the fact of the matter is that it would be dangerous in the extreme for us now to elect and put in place the 104 members of the current Senate. We would never get a Triple E Senate under those circumstances.
Redwater Andrew. Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, my question today is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and Mr. Speaker, it's a great move here in Alberta today for the people of Alberta and for privatization in this province, but we know that the Minister has confirmed that AMHC mortgages will not be affected by this sale, but there is some questions arising, and one is to the Minister, will Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation lose any money on the sale of the $383 million of mortgages to the private sector?
Mr. Speaker, the $620 million of mortgages, of single-family mortgages that are for sale to the private sector are quality mortgages, high-performing single-family mortgages in this province. There are 14,000 of them, and most of them were mortgages taken out for 25 and 30-year periods. They have about 15 years to arrive at maturity. We've done some examinations of that portfolio. About one-third of 1% of the 14,000 are maybe in arrears. We did a sampling of about 5,000 mortgages, 4 mortgages which are 60 days in arrears or less. 4 of them out of 5,000. These are very high-quality mortgages that are out in the marketplaces. There will not be any loss of money to the government. The mortgages will be sold at market value. We in this government will receive our values for them in that sale, and it is my hope at the end of the sale process that we will be able to transfer back to the Heritage Savings Trust Fund some $600 million to be looked at and dealt with and used for other purposes with this government and for the people of Alberta, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, supplementary to the Minister, that's good information, I think, and people will be pleased with that. But Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, in addition to the Alberta-based institution, has the Minister received any expressions of interest from the other private sector institutions, lending institutions, to this program?
Mr. Speaker, there are a number of financial institutions that are very, very interested. We have documented 50 at the present time, and there may be more than that. Each one of these financial institutions are very soundly based, are insured by the Canadian Canadian Deposit Insurance Corporation, and have the ability to buy the mortgages that will be up for sale. And Mr. Speaker, we think that there will be many inquiries and many bids on the remaining mortgages that will be put out to the private sector.
Calgary Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, my questions today are to the Minister of Advanced Education. As the Minister knows, the President of the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology resigned today. His resignation was accepted. As the Minister is also aware, a new chairman is about to be appointed for the Board of SAIT. My question to the Minister is, will he assure this House that these positions of leadership in our post-secondary educational institutions will be filled by people whose primary commitment is to education and not to the development of entrepreneurial programs?
Mr. Speaker, I was advised just this morning that the president of Southern Alberta Institute of Technology tendered his resignation. I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that as a board-governed institution, it's the Board of Governors I deal with, and the hiring and the evaluation of a president is the responsibility of the board and not of this minister. With regard to chairman of the institution, Mr. Speaker, the institution now is very ably chaired by Mrs. Gloria Planenden and a well-qualified Board of Governors.
My supplementary, Mr. Speaker. SAIT has also announced program cuts, the abolition of a number of full-time positions and other measures to deal with the continuing budgetary problems. These problems are in part due to SAIT's involvement in that offshore Indonesian oil training program. Will the Minister now commit to providing a full disclosure of SAIT's dealings with the Batam Island project?
Good idea.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable member is well aware, SAIT operates under the Technical Institutes Act, and he is aware as anyone, I believe, as to the contents of that act. As a board-governed institution, they have a responsibility for educating, training, and community service, and also within their act are other activities that they are empowered to do under that act. I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that The budgetary process is now underway. The involvement of this minister is with regard to the Institute operating within budget, approved budget, and we have the safety of the Auditor General of this province who does the annual audit, which is tabled with this House. And I would think on that basis, Mr. Speaker, honourable members should be assured that the obligations of the Technical Institutes Act apply to SAIT, and they must comply with them.
Well, it's always nice to have a pause. Calgary Buffalo, followed by Clover Bar, Edmonton Avamore, Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My first question would be to the Minister in charge of telephones. Private cellular telephone calls can and are being monitored by busybodies using handheld police scanners, which are available from any neighborhood electronics store. Now, this is only one example of how our privacy is being threatened by technological developments such as the new telephone receivers which display phone numbers, through lie detectors, through voice stress analyzers, through drug testing paraphernalia, and by use of the social insurance number. As a society, Mr. Speaker, we need to take a much greater interest in protecting the privacy of our citizens. To the Minister in charge of telephones, I'm wondering whether he would tell this House whether the government is doing anything to tackle the problem of cellular telephone calls being intercepted, possibly through banning the sale of scanners or through discussions with the federal government in order to discuss and deal with the problem at a national level.
Mr. Speaker, it is certainly true what the honourable member has stated, that as technology changes, some of these anomalies that he has spoken of do come forward and do require our close supervision and examination. We're doing just that, Mr. Speaker. As soon as that came to light, we did engage in some discussions with respect to the situation, try to get a better handle on exactly what sort of anomalies were occurring and what sort of potential there was through these technologies for abuse. And that examination is underway at the present time, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that, Mr. Speaker. I think it's long overdue, and I'm wondering whether I might ask the Deputy Premier, although I would say on behalf of our caucus that we prefer the other chap. I'm wondering whether the government would agree to consider establishing a commission to review the privacy problem in Alberta with a view to enacting privacy legislation in order to protect Albertans from the dangerous invasions of privacy that are about these days.
Well, unless I missed it, I thought the Honourable Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications had answered that question and said that that matter would be under consideration and in due course, in the fullness of time, appropriate action might well be taken.
Over bar.
Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife. Some of my constituents have raised a concern about the realignment of Y Road east of Sherwood Park and the possible effects that that road widening might have on the North Cooking Lake natural area. This is despite a study that was undertaken, and I just quoted a survey, and I'll file that with the House, a survey of wetland wildlife resources, Strathcona County, number 20, Alberta, by Deirdre E. Griffith, consulting ecologist, January 1987. I'll file the title page and an excerpt of that study, Mr. Speaker. And that study did not indicate any ecologically sensitive areas related to the North Cooking Lake area. But can the minister advise the Assembly if he has or his department has any particular concerns with the proposed widening of the Y Road in this natural area setting?
Speaker, I personally reviewed my department's involvement in this area through our Natural Areas program, and also I've reviewed the options that would be available to the County of Strathcona. Because in my view, if you look at common sense view, the road alignment that's being proposed is the best option. The best option as it relates to greater safety, I think, along that particular road. Also, I thank the honourable member for Clover Bar for his assistance on this matter with me, because my department has been able to negotiate with Strathcona County for 12.95 or 9 acres, I recall, that would be come out of the natural area. But at the same time, we negotiated about 140 acres, or between 140 and 150 acres, that would be put into the natural area to enhance it. So, along with that agreement as well, we received certain road right-of-ways from the county that now are put back in the natural area. So it was a great benefit to the natural area, and also, I think, to traffic safety in the area.
Concern by the constituents relates to endangered plant species, and can the minister assure me that the road alignment will not affect any rare or endangered plant species in this natural area?
Mr. Speaker, my department advises me that any of the plant species that are in the particular area are very common species, and certainly there is no risk in their view of eliminating any endangered or threatened species of plant life.
Edmonton Avonmore.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions are related to the eradication of violence in the family. Yesterday, we welcomed the Solicitor General's statement that he acknowledges that violence against women by their husbands is a crime. But, Mr. Speaker, prosecution is not enough. In other jurisdictions, it has been proven that the most effective treatment for batterers is that which is court-mandated and vigorously followed up by probation officers. My questions are to the Solicitor General. Will the Solicitor General now commit to funding for court-mandated treatment programs across Alberta as part of his long-awaited strategy to deal with battering as a crime?
Mr. Speaker, I agree with much that the honourable member says. However, for a program that has been under study for nearly 1 year within my department, to come and ask in question period today, will I make a specific commitment in respect to a very specific matter, I just simply cannot do that.
Well, one could have hoped for a commitment to at least looking into it. Mr. Speaker, for the past decade, workers in shelters for battered women have noted the impact that violence in the family has on children who witness or are targets of that violence. If we are to break the intergenerational cycle of violence, early intervention with these children is required. My questions are to the Minister responsible for Family and Social Services. In view of the reference the Social Care Facilities Review Committee has made to the need for counseling programs for children who witness or are targets of violence in the home, will the Minister target additional funds in order that shelters can provide counseling for children and thus work to break the intergenerational cycle of male violence?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd want to first of all point out to the member that last year we increased our funding to the women's shelters in this province some 24%. This year we increased it by another 9%. But I appreciate and recognize the issue and concern that the member has raised, and I'd want to first of all say that we too share that concern. And we too are committed to doing everything that we can as it relates to the prevention of family violence, and we've made considerable progress in this province and in this nation. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that there's much more to be done. We recognize that there is a need for the counseling that the member has spoken up, and it is happening. Mr. Speaker, it's happening today in Alberta. Not perhaps to the extent that we'd like to see it happening, but it is happening, Mr. Speaker, and we are committed to continue to work with Albertans, to work with communities and community agencies. And I'd want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that between the years of 87 and 89 alone, we saw an increase of some 24% in community agencies that are prepared to respond to the needs of this particular problem. Mr. Speaker, it is a multi-dimensional problem. It requires a multi-dimensional solution. I can say that we're committed to offering some leadership as a province. I can say that we're committed to working with our federal counterparts who have done an awful lot of work in this direction in recent years, that we're committed to continue to work with communities. And the last thing, Mr. Speaker, that I do want to mention is the initiatives that we announced last June in this Assembly, and that was the funding of a number of educational projects and a number of demonstration projects right across this province, all geared, Mr. Speaker, towards finding solutions and towards the prevention of family violence.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, here we are in the last week of June, and the Minister for Family and Social Services hasn't yet revealed to us any of the details on the rate schedule and training standards for daycare. Mr. Speaker, parents and operators alike are in a dilemma here. They can't make plans or decisions without the subsidy schedule. My questions to the Minister of Family and Social Services, Mr. Speaker, are when are we going to get it? What on earth is the holdup?
Well, two questions, Mr. Speaker, but it's always interesting when I listen to the members opposite, and I find at times they're telling us that we're acting too quick. We're moving too fast. We're not allowing Albertans the opportunity for their input. And then at other times when it's convenient, Mr. Speaker, they're telling us, act quicker. Don't consult with Albertans, just announce it and do it. Well, Mr. Speaker, what I found about the Liberal Party, Mr. Speaker, is the only thing consistent about them is their inconsistency. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have gone through an excellent process. This process of the white paper on reforms to Alberta's daycare programs has been most effective. I've had the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, of hearing from some 2,400 plus Albertans. I've taken the opportunity of reading through their suggestions, their comments, their recommendations. We've had public meetings right across this province where close to another 5,000 Albertans were able to participate. I personally have met with advocacy groups, parents, daycare users right across this province. Mr. Speaker, all I can say is that it is time well spent, that I'm not going to allow the integrity of these reforms to be compromised by rushing them through, that I'm going to continue the process, I'm going to see it through to a successful conclusion, Mr. Speaker, and I look forward to announcing some of the most progressive daycare policies in Canada.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister must have had that rate schedule long before the reforms were even announced in the first place. This delay, I think, is unconscionable, it's thoughtless, and insensitive to the needs of families. Mr. Speaker, what about the daycare workers? Can the Minister please tell us now what the details are of his package of training, including access and funding for training of daycare workers?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned to the member for Goldbar, we are going through a consultative process. It's coming to a conclusion. I'm looking forward, Mr. Speaker, to announcing very shortly the final recommendations. But again, Mr. Speaker, I am going to make sure that we take the necessary time to do these things properly, that we take the necessary time to allow Albertans to be a part of these reforms, and to make sure that we continue to be able to offer the highest quality level of daycare in Canada. And I would want to point out, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that has come out very clearly through this process is just how good our daycare really is in Alberta. Parents have told me that very consistently through all the letters that I've received, is how pleased they are with the daycare that we've been able to offer here in Alberta. And I'd want to point out to the member for Edmonton Goldbar, we're the only province in Canada, Mr. Speaker, that has a surplus of daycare spaces. And I might also note, Mr. Speaker, that we're the only province in Canada that treats profit and non-profit daycares on an equitable basis, and that might just be part of the reason that we stand out the way that we do.
Deputy Premier, in response to questions raised by Edmonton Avonmore yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for Edmonton Avonmore yesterday, in the question period, alleged that the federal government was building a level 4 biohazard containment facility to provide for the testing of genetically altered microbes which produce diseases for which there are no known cures. Mr. Speaker, I have consulted with the Department of National Defense, has been assured that no such program exists within Alberta for testing, for defensive or any other purposes, nor have any such tests been conducted, and that the containment facility in question was announced on January the 25th of 1989 by the then Minister of National Defense to deal with chemical agents only. And of course, beyond that, we are advised by Base Command Suffield that although the announcement has been made, no action has been taken by the Department of National Defense on the facility. There have not been any plans, specifications, work, or funding for such a facility, and any decision to proceed would be subject to the federal government's own environmental assessment and review requirements. One more.
Given that there has been approval, although not beginning, of the building of a level 4 biohazards containment facility, and given that such a facility, although may not necessarily be used for the testing of biological warfare agents, can be used for such testing, will the minister now give his assurance to this assembly and to the people of Alberta that he will vigorously oppose the building of such a containment facility?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member has not listened to what I just said. No such facility is being built to deal with biological agents.
Thank you, honourable members. There are a number of items to be dealt with. First, we have three matters with purported points of privilege, followed by Standing Order 40, and then we'll go on from there. First, with regard to the point of privileges raised by the honourable member for Calgary-Buffalo. The member raised a purported point of privilege, which he presented to the House yesterday, stating that he is prohibited from fulfilling his responsibility as an elected member by the fact that lottery funds are not presented with the estimates or in the public accounts, allowing for full scrutiny and examination by members. Proper notice was given under Standing Order 15, but it can hardly be said that the matter was raised at the earliest opportunity. However, the chair will deal with the substance of the issue rather than taking that narrow focus, as the member is referring to a continuing state of affairs rather than a single event. The fact that lottery fund expenditures are not contained in the estimates is a consequence not of an administrative act or discretion, but of the provisions of the statute law of this province. Order, please. Essentially, the member has a complaint about the status of the law, which is not a matter of privilege. It is not entirely accurate to say that lottery funds are not included in the public accounts. The expenditures are included, although the income to the fund and the balance of the fund are not. In fact, there was discussion on its expenditures in the Public Accounts Committee on May 16th of this year, when the Honourable Minister for Public Works, Supply and Services appeared before the committee with lottery staff and offered to deal with all matters under his authority. The member for Calgary-Buffalo was on that committee and indeed spoke on that occasion. As to the opportunities available to members to debate lottery issues, the chair would point out that since 1986, there have been over 80 occasions when the matter of lottery funds has been raised in the House. 43 times in oral question period, 26 times during consideration of the estimates, 6 written questions and motions for returns, 7 occasions of debate on or references in bills before the House. One of those occasions was the member's own motion, number 208, debated this session. Notwithstanding that, and regardless of whether the member was satisfied with the outcome of those opportunities, the chair rules there is no prima facie point of privilege, but rather a complaint about the provisions of the law, the member's remedy is to continue to propose changes in the law in the normal fashion. With respect to the matter of purported point of privilege as raised by Edmonton Whitemud, on Monday, June 25th, that member gave notice to the chair of a purported point of privilege concerning his complaint about comments by the Honourable Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services on Friday, June the 22nd. The member for Edmonton Whitemud presented his case to the chair and to the House yesterday. After careful examination of Hansard, the chair has had opportunity to assess the comments of both the minister and the member for Edmonton Whitemud. The issue has two major components. The first is the complaint by the member for Edmonton Whitemud of the words, quote, lying, lied, and lie, close the quote, used by the minister against him. The second is the complaint of intimidation by the minister against the member for Edmonton Whitemud through certain statements by the minister in the House. With regard to the first complaint, the chair points out to members that a complaint of privilege is indeed a very serious matter. There are privileges of both the member individually and the House as a whole. With respect to a member's individual privileges, a breach of privilege is generally considered to have taken place when a member is subjected to something which prevents or attempts to prevent that member from carrying out his or her parliamentary duties as a member of the Legislative Assembly. With respect to the use of words lying, lied, and lie by the minister, there can be no doubt that those words were used. There can also be no doubt that those words are intemperate, unparliamentary, and out of order. Beauchesne citations 485 to 494 clearly indicate this and prohibit the accusation that another member of the House is lying, regardless of the circumstances. The matter of unparliamentary language, however, is a matter of order and not one of privilege. The chair will ask the Honourable Minister to withdraw the offending words after this rendition. No doubt the Minister can substitute more temperate and suitable phrases which are indeed regarded as parliamentary. The chair finds, however, that there is no prima facie case of privilege with respect to this issue. With regard to the second matter, intimidation of a member is a very serious matter, and one that could potentially involve a breach of privilege. However, a careful examination of what was actually said elicits some comment. Yesterday, the member for Edmonton Whitemud quoted the minister as saying, quote, "This member will either retract that statement now, or I will take every step available to me as a member of this assembly to make sure that he's eliminated from this assembly," close the quote. The correct and complete quote would read, quote, "This member will either retract that statement now, or I will take every step available to me as a member of this assembly to make sure that he's eliminated from this assembly under the basis of the law that we have within the rules," close the quote. Members are directed in future to please use complete quotations, as the House is always concerned about complete accuracy. It seems to the chair that the warning of one member to another member that he will use within the law the rules to stop a member from making unfounded allegations within the chamber is far from being intimidation designed to stop another member from performing the duties of his or her job. The complete quotation was indeed a severe warning to the member for Edmonton Whitemud, but was within the rules of temperate and parliamentary language. The chair therefore finds no prima facie case of privilege in this matter. With regard to the matter of intervention by outside counsel raised by the member for Edmonton Whitemud yesterday, the chair sees complaints between members over something which transpires in the House as being between members themselves. Each has a right under the rules of this assembly to seek redress. The chair does not see it as appropriate for any stranger to this assembly to communicate with a member threatening the use of the rules of this House to force a particular conduct from that member. Complaints to the Speaker about what transpires in the House is an exclusive right of members. It is inappropriate that non-members should be involved because they themselves have no rights of complaint to the chair, nor can they demand remedies. They have no status before this House. Use of counsel in matters before the chair which concern that particular code of laws, applicable only inside this chamber, should be restricted to private advice. This would not apply to matters arising outside the House, where members may indeed take legal action against each other if they so desire. The chair finds no prima facie case of privilege in the matters raised by the member for Edmonton-Whitemud. On Friday, June 22nd, an exchange during question period took place between the member for Edmonton-Whitemud and the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services. Forgive me, honourable members. I must pause long enough to see if the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services will deal with the invitation.
Mr. Speaker, I don't mean to interrupt, but I did rise when you had begun. Mr. Speaker, O'Shane makes it very clear that language used in the House should be tempered and worthy of the place in which it is spoken. I regret and am personally ashamed about my usage of unparliamentary language in this Legislative Assembly on June 22, 1990, as the decorum and integrity of this Assembly is very important to me. I would ask that the record show that where the words lied, lie, and lying were used, the phrases totally untrue and not telling the truth be substituted. Thank you.
On Friday, June the 22nd, an exchange during question period did take place between the member for Edmonton-Whitemud and the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services, which has subsequently become the basis of a purported question of privilege by the Minister. There are two types of privilege to be considered here. The first affects those privileges enjoyed by each member individually. In this context, this would be an impairment of the member's parliamentary duties. The second type of privilege affects those rights enjoyed by the House as a whole. In this context, this would be a complaint of deliberately or recklessly misleading the House. The Chair examined what transpired on that date and also on June 25 and 26, when the Chair received notice and heard arguments relevant to the matter. In the Chair's opinion, the Minister gave no prima facie evidence of how the comments uttered by the member for Edmonton-Whitemud impaired his abilities to function as a member of the Legislative Assembly. However, the Chair does regard the comments of Edmonton-Whitemud as potentially defamatory and damaging to the Minister, which might be an impediment to his parliamentary function. But on the basis of the evidence before it, the Chair cannot rule that a prima facie case exists. On the second matter of the privileges of the Assembly as a whole, the Chair considered the question of the House having been misled. At this time, there is no evidence before the House as to the truth or falsity of the allegations by the member for Edmonton-Whitemud, except the Minister's denial. At the same time, the nature of the allegations is serious. If it should be determined that they were not factual, the House may have been seriously misled either deliberately or recklessly. The Chair would submit that the issue of misleading the House is unclear. However, it is not the Chair's function to make a final determination on the matter. It is only required to determine whether or not a prima facie case of breach of privilege exists. What is the meaning of the words prima facie? Joseph Mingo, QC, in his book Parliamentary Privilege in Canada at page 188 writes, and I quote, "A prima facie case of privilege in the parliamentary sense is one where the evidence on its face as outlined by the member is sufficiently strong for the House to be asked to send it to a committee to investigate whether the privileges of the House have been breached or a contempt has occurred and report to the House." Close of quote. The chair finds that there is sufficient cause in the second issue to warrant a determination that a prima facie case of breach of privilege exists. The chair therefore leaves the matter to the determination of the House. Standing Order 40, Solicitor General.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to put forward the following motion. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta conveys deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Constable Ezio Ferrone of the Edmonton Police Service, who was needlessly and tragically killed while performing his duties for the people of this city, and urge all Albertans to reflect on the onerous responsibility that our police officers take on each and every day to help make our communities a safer place in which to live, and to say a prayer for Constable Ferrone and his family, friends, and all police officers throughout our province.
Under Standing Order 40, those in favor of giving unanimous consent, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and also for permitting the motion to be put without circulation. I'm confident that all members join with me in expressing our deepest sorrow to the family and friends of Constable Ferrone. It is with great sadness that we in this province are witness to the tragic loss of life of one of Edmonton's finest. Constable Ferrone has paid the ultimate price in ensuring that our community in Edmonton is a safer place in which to live, and for that we must not forget. Mr. Speaker, mere mortals that we are will cause us to ponder the dilemma that faces us as our society challenges the very fabric of its soul. The increasing stresses and strains that a rapidly moving society places upon its citizens are giving rise to fears and uncertainties. Law and order are but two pillars that must always be strengthened, and I pledge to this Assembly that I will do all within my powers to ensure that these pillars remain the hallmark of all Albertans. Today, Mr. Speaker, we must reflect upon the unnecessary loss of a human life. Throughout our history as a province, we have recorded at least 31 police officers who have paid the ultimate price. Their service must not be forgotten. We today, our children, and their children in turn, must pause and reflect upon what our society would be like if each person was at liberty to do whatever they chose, whenever they wished, at whatever price was necessary. That, Mr. Speaker, would ensure that no society could survive. I call upon this Assembly and all Albertans to reflect on the ultimate price that Constable Ferrone has paid for our peace and safety, and implore all members to reconfirm to their families and constituents that we are a society that is built upon the rule of law, and that our own peace and safety be dependent upon our own commitment to upholding and respecting that fundamental principle that for each freedom comes with it a responsibility, and only through the proper discharge of that responsibility do we ensure that those freedoms are preserved. To Constable Ferrone's mother and family, we the members of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta and all Albertans extend our heartfelt condolence on the loss of a loving son and brother. To all members of the Edmonton Police Service and all police officers of the province of Alberta, we pray that you accept our statement of gratitude for the services that you are asked to provide, and ask that God give you guidance and strength to continue to provide Albertans with the protection and safety we all too often take for granted. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to reference the ultimate authority and quote, "This is what I meant when I said, while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses, in the prophets, and in the Psalms has to be fulfilled." He then opened their minds to understand the Scriptures, and he said to them,
So you see how it is written that the Christ would suffer and on the third day rise from the dead, and that in his name repentance for the forgiveness of sins would be preached to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witness to this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Center.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the official opposition New Democrat caucus, it's hard to follow the eloquent words of the Solicitor General, but we certainly want to support him in his motion for unanimous consent. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, servants, those among us who are servants of the people involved in life and death situations are ones that we need to continue to honor with greater respect often than we do. They continue to take risks and preserve for us that sense of sacrifice and service which so many of us are called to do and to be a part of, but to do so in the spirit of also safety for the common good. As the Chief of Police, Mr. McNally, has already said, it's not wise for us to, if this situation to death, trying to understand what could have been different if this or that had been in a different set of circumstances. But this, certainly for all of us, is a time of reflection and then for some action in terms of what we can better do to serve the people through the police service so these situations do not happen again. We certainly, too, want to offer our support for Constable Ferrone's family and for his colleagues in the police service upon whom it's a very grievous time, but the hope that at the end of the day we can all be strengthened in the spirit of sacrifice, service, and safety that calls us forward. Thank you.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, for some years I was privileged to sit as a member on the Edmonton Police Commission. And as such, I learned very closely the nature of the work of the members of that police department. I got to know them, and I got to know many of their families. And I often talked with members and with the chaplain about the anxieties that they must deal with in their daily life. I got to understand the nature of their work and to know them as highly trained and highly skilled and highly principled people in our community. Mr. Speaker, they do, however, deal daily and sometimes without visibility with situations that are volatile and violent, and they are often at high risk. We owe them, as the Solicitor General has said, our deepest gratitude. We also often, I fear, take them for granted. And it's unfortunate that situations like this have to occur before we are drawn to a stop to consider what they mean to us. Mr. Speaker, my Liberal colleagues and I wish to join the government in sending our sympathies to the family of Constable Ferrone and also to all of his grieving colleagues on whom we will continue to depend for peace and good order in all of our communities.
Calling for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Let the record show unanimously. Orders of the day.
Mr. Speaker.